Okay, good morning, Chairman. Today is November 19th, 2015. This is the 11 o'clock session of the Board of Liquor License Commissioners. The first item on the docket today is a presentation of the Rules Committee of the revisions to the rules and regulations for alcoholic beverages and adult entertainment. First of all, I just wanted to, if I can, just make that presentation if it's allowable to the board.
Yes.
Great. So what I wanted to kind of first do is to kind of at first do the thank yous. Stanley Fine performed the task of being our chairman of this, and he did a great job. He's unavailable today, but he will be here for the final adoption. But I wanted to stand just to recognize some of the people that are here in the audience that were on the committee. I'll start with my staff first, because I will start with staff. Thomas Akris is here. He's the deputy. If you can please stand up, Tom Akris, and he's also here to answer any questions that you may have. He is the deputy executive secretary, and Tom provided an immense amount of support in trying to keep us all straight. He helped to make sure that we have all of the red lines and information, and he also worked very diligently with legislative affairs to make sure that the draft that you have in front of you today has been vetted by the state legislature for wording, and actually did a lot of the drafting of the original wording for the first draft. So this has been a project that he's worked on over the last, pretty much the last year that he's been here, and I have to commend him on the work that he's done and making these changes. So I wanted to first recognize Tom before I begin my presentation. Secondly, I've got Minda Goldberg here from the City Solicitor's Office. Minda is our representative from the City Solicitor, and she's been very helpful, and she's here as well in the blue right in front of you. Of course, I would be remiss if I did not introduce Mr. Melvin J. Kadinsky, who was on the committee and was an attorney that was on there, and not his associate, but Abe Hurdle also is another attorney who is also a part of the committee, who's also here. We had several community representatives that were on there. Michelle Wurzberger from the Midtown Benefits area. We had Tom Yeager from the Downtown Partnership. We had Steve Johnson from Mount Vernon. We also had John Pica as another attorney who was on this committee. We had Richard Parker from Citizens of Pigtown. We had two licensees, Peter Kimos of Peter's Poorhouse and Vicki Schlesinger of Mount Vernon Spirits, also there. I'm trying to make sure that I get everybody. I think I think I might have recognized the people, but I will put out a complete list of all the participants. Also, the unofficially, Miss Becky Witt provided a lot of good comments and information for us, and I guess I will see her when she gets in, but I want to unofficially recognize Becky Witt as well. So, moving on to my presentation, I have copies in the back. Pretty much what I'm going to do is do a brief introduction, a process overview, and the timeline that we did it, and what the committee reviewed during the meetings. We made changes to both the alcoholic beverages rules and the adult entertainment. We also received some legislative recommendations to the board from the committee. As a matter of introduction, in 2014, the legislature tasked us with revising the rules, and they gave us a deadline of getting this revision done by October 31st, 2015. What we did over the last 3 months, from August to October, we had a series of 9 meetings where the committee met and reviewed and made a very detailed review of the board of both the rules for adult entertainment and the alcoholic beverages. We spent over 30 hours discussing and deliberating those changes and making significant changes to both the format and the form of both sets of rules, which have not been updated since 1989. A little bit more about the process. So you guys looked at we had a draft ready for you in July of 2015. The committee met from August to October 2015. In November, we posted this on the docket, and you have another meeting also scheduled for December 3rd at 4 p.m. So those of you who watch this on television, this will be again on December 3rd, 4 p.m. A final version will be adopted by the board on December 17th, 2015. And then my goal is to promulgate these new rules by January 1st, 2016. So here's an overview of what changed in the alcoholic beverage regulations. This is exciting stuff, people. So what we did is we expanded the definition section and defined terms that were used by the board to educate licensees and community members. So now you'll see there's probably closer to 40 to 50 different definitions that weren't there before. We also outlined ancillary privileges such as temporary one-day licenses, tasting and festivals, and specialty Sunday licenses. These are things that the board had traditionally done, but we didn't have it in the rules. So the rules now kind of state what we're doing, and it has, so everybody can see what is a Sunday license? The special Sunday licenses are usually given to our Class A licensees who open 4 times per year. That's what a special Sunday license is. Sometimes people don't know that, so that's what we've delineated that out. We also updated the process for substitute applications, renewals, transfers, protests, and we also talked about inspections and the submission of documents to the board and motions for reconsideration. I know that the board was particularly interested in having something that had a formalized process for what to submit and the timelines for that, and we've put that into the rules. We also clarified issues on operations and outlined the beverage order and delivery service. I don't know if anybody heard about the news about a couple months ago, about 6 to 8 months ago, regarding Druzy, which is an online beverage service. Baltimore County made some changes to theirs. We looked at our rules, updated, and added that information as well. We also then revised the operations, the standard operations for licensees that included the prohibiting of live entertainment without authorization and clarified prohibited activities for license types. So in the case of the live entertainment without authorization, we used to charge that as a 4.118 illegal conduct. And people would say, well, why are you charging me for illegal conduct for dancing? Well, you don't have live entertainment without permission. So now we have a rule that actually says live entertainment without permission, because this has been a recurring issue versus a regular 4.18 illegal conduct. Moreover, when we looked at the prohibited activities for all license types, we went through and made some changes to that. I think the one caveat that I think that we have a comment from the planning board is in regards to 4.20, which is when we look at taverns and we look at the BD7 class. So what we will, there's some comments that I've submitted to all of you, which will be added to the website today because I just got it this morning, in regards to their comments regarding 4.20 and a revision to our tavern and BD7 section. When we met as a committee, the committee had a split of 4 to 9 in regards to what to do in that section. So individually, that would be an issue that you might want to look at and have a little bit more attention to how you look at the focus of a tavern and the rules in regards to tavern and licenses. We went, as a committee, they went with just keeping the current language. And I think Tom, at the end, if you have additional questions, can give you some more clarification on how that section was put together by legislative revisions. Finally, we incorporated provisions to include zoning, which was outlined in the 2014 Alcoholic Beverage Act, and we also added an appendix that added the breakdown of licenses and the types. Before, we did not have that information readily available, so now that's part of the rules. Okay, adult entertainment rules and regulations. This sounds a lot more sexy than it is because it's not very sexy right now. So what we did was that we went and we updated the definitions based on Article 15 1-1, which is the city code which governs adult entertainment. We provided a couple more clear definitions on adult entertainment, what it is and what it's not. We outlined the application process and advertisement process and the board decision-making process. This was not clear in the previous set of adult entertainment rules. We did not have a clear, because the adult entertainment process occurs in June, like the city processes, it was sort of assumed that we did it a certain way, but it wasn't written in the rules, so we did make that clear. We added a late renewal application penalty fee because there wasn't one, and there is one clearly in alcoholic beverages, but in adult entertainment, there's not. We have 36 adult entertainment licensees. 33 of them, I believe, or 34 of them are alcoholic beverage licensees. So they pretty much are parallel, but for the 2 or 3, we needed to be able to make sure that we had a separate process. We also clarified standards of operations for adult licensees and made sure that their accompanying alcoholic beverage licenses, we didn't duplicate those in the rules. We again also outlined the violation hearing process that included notification, appellate rights, and potential penalties upon board findings. Well, finally, the last part of our presentation is in regards to legislative recommendations for the board from the committee. They asked for you all to look at, or asked for the legislature, which is what we're going to ask for you to either bless or approve, is to look at the 180-day rule. there's an amendment and ask for an amendment to Article 2B 10503 4D. The language that the committee suggested should allow the board to have discretion to extend the period of time for the completion of a license if the request is made by the applicant for a transfer not more than 180 days and approves the license for good causes shown. So basically, this issue is in regards to the board doesn't have very much discretion in regards to granting additional 180 days or giving what the good cause is. So that's something that the committee that worked on it has as a legislative item that they'd like forwarded. If I'm messing this up, Tom, I'm sure will correct me at the end. The 3 newspaper rule amendment to 2B 10202A-1-I-1. This is language that should be added that for Baltimore City applicants that require that we only have 1 newspaper of general circulation, because we don't really have very many newspapers anymore. I think the law was written when we had a lot of newspapers, and 1 would probably be more practical, and it would also save us fees and time. The last one is the next one is for a residency requirement. The language that we like is in 2B 9-101A through C. Language should be changed to allow for non-Baltimore City residents to apply for liquor license. We'd ask for the new requirement to have state of Maryland who have lived in the state of Maryland for 2 years to apply for a license in Baltimore City. I believe that in other counties, this is a law, and this is allowed. And in Baltimore City, we have the strict requirement regarding Baltimore City. And that many times we have to have a Baltimore City resident who may not have as large of a pecuniary interest in the business as the owner. So we may have an owner that has 99% and then have to give a 1% share to a resident who probably doesn't have as much interest as the Baltimore County or Howard County or whatever owner. So that would be a other requested change. Another change in regards to legislative items would be an amendment to Article 2B 8-203. One of the licensees thought it would be good for the licensees to be able to hold more than 1 BD7, up to 5, like in restaurants. This also might occur in other types of licenses. There is a prohibition in regards to the ability to own more than 1 license. I believe in restaurants you can own up to 5, but in other license types you can either only have 1 type or the other. So the ability to be able to go to the legislature to ask for people to own more than 1 license. In a lot of ways that this is maybe that people have wife, sister, brother, all own licenses and not have and just really to have the single licensee and have that responsibility for that single licensee would probably be more clear for the board. Okay, D, licenses. This is Article 2B 11503B-1. D licenses to allow them, the committee's request is to allow Ds to operate from 6 to 2 a.m. and language should be changed to also allow these licenses to operate to Sundays where a D license can be open. Now, just to kind of give what the issue is here, that a Class D is a 6-day license. It closes at 1 o'clock. Class Bs are 7-day licenses, and Classes BD7s are also 7-day licenses. We have approximately, as I understand, about 168 Class D licenses right now. So this would affect about 168 people or licensees to allow them to have that additional day of operation and that additional hour. I think that you see some cases in regards to licensees where they are open at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock mistakenly, and they're a Class D, and they're restaurants. But they have a Class D, which is, sort of a tavern license. So that's the issue there. And then last but least, this is one of Mr. Kadinsky's favorite ones. This is the character witnesses, Amendment 2B 10104D. We have a character witness statement that makes 5 people that have to be to sign on it, which is a sort of an antiquated thing in regards to license applications. We are asking that in other counties, this is not so. Baltimore County has eliminated this provision, and I think Howard County does not have this provision as well. And so we are asking to modernize our license process to make us like other counties, because we are competitive and our process is competitive with other counties. So I would say that we would have that the character witness says that they have to know someone for at least 2 years and also be a resident of Baltimore State instead of the city for at least 2 years, because that would say that you know somebody in the state and locally versus you have to know somebody directly in Baltimore City. And in some ways, character references may not be as clear and concrete from people that if they are someone who's moving into the area who then has a secondary licensee and then they have to find five people that know them in Baltimore City, maybe it would make sense if people in the state of Maryland knew that licensee and actually could be good character references for the licensee. These are all the legislative recommendations from the committee, not from me. I'm reading them as if I am the committee, but I am not. So I'm putting that together for your review as well as part of the overall presentation. Just in closing, both staff and the committee, I think, worked really hard on these rules. I am here with Tom Akris, which I'll ask to stand up at this point, to answer any specific questions you may have in regards to the rules. I've got a plethora of rules in front of me and notes from almost every single meeting also in front of me to be able to answer those questions. Tom's level of detail on our committee notes was extraordinary, so we can almost go back to a conversation and tell you probably what happened. So we're here to do that for you first, and then after that point, you can start your public comment process.
You make a note they need to come forward and give their names when they do ask questions.
No problem.
Who's coming? The councilwoman, are you coming? Okay, well, he wants to get it on the record and, okay. I saw you standing up and,
Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
You said something about it.
Yeah, the next hearing.
yeah, so this is Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark.
Right. Mary Pat Clark, Baltimore City Council. First of all, I'm here to ask for the hearing that you just announced. So basically, there's not a whole lot of people here, and we all know, the different messages that went out. So I just want to confirm, you're having a hearing at 4 o'clock here on December the 3rd.
Yes, ma'am.
And that is for the sole purpose of getting comments on these rules.
Yes, ma'am.
And if people want to get a and how long will you allow that meeting to proceed? A couple hours?
We have as long as the city will allow us to be in the building, ma'am. You
Okay.
can, I'm sure you can pull a couple strings to get us here as long as you
I'll make
want.
sure that the building is open
I'm
for
told by the
business.
security that they usually close the building at 9, but for you,
Oh, I think by 9 o'clock you probably have heard from a couple of the people.
Okay.
All right, so you are going to have that hearing because that's what my constituents were
Yes,
the
ma'am.
most concerned
And
about.
it was posted on the website today. I verified that myself, and I saw it was posted on the website as part of the docket. And attached to that docket item are the two copies of the rules that have been promulgated as well.
So, and if people don't have all that access, will you have extra copies of the rules someplace public that they can pick up?
Just like
here?
you have them today, I will have copies in the back.
Okay, so, and they can pick them up at the liquor board?
I have copies at the liquor board as well.
Okay, so that's great. So if people don't have access, if they can get downtown and get to the liquor board, they can get a copy of these rules in advance?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so one final question. When people come to testify, I think they're going to have questions as well as comments. Like, I know I will. So are you willing to engage in that kind of conversation? Not forever, but depending on how many people you have here. In other words, if I say, if I'm asking you, I just jotted down some things. I haven't read these rules. So you talked about BD7s, or you talked about expanding. I think you talked about expanding the Ds to.
No, those are not in the rules. Those are legislative recommendations from the committees. So I want to make that very clear, is that in the rules, you will see nothing about expanding the Ds to 6 days.
Well,
On
that's
the-
going to cut down. Maybe we
So-
can get out by 8.
So yeah, I think you might. So on the last page, and that's why we put a copy of the presentation up, and I have copies in the back. So it says that very clearly that these are legislative recommendations that are there. So that's this one that I'm looking at right here. So that's on the legislative recommendation page. So there are no changes to state law that we cannot make. So we're not making any changes to state law, and it was part of the rules.
Okay, so basically, when you talked about the Ds going an extra hour and an extra day,
That is a legislative recommendation
or
from the committee.
What about eliminating character witnesses?
That is legislative recommendations.
Oh, what about city residency.
Legislative recommendations.
Oh, this is, maybe.
Here you go, ma'am. I'm going to give
It'll
you
be
my
out by
copy.
7.
I'm going to give you my copy right now so
Oh,
that you
I-
have it.
Oh, thank you very
Welcome.
much. I think that's very important for people to understand.
Yes,
Because
and-
I'm back there taking notes and
Yeah.
I missed the one
And
part.
it's sitting right on back too. So I put them back there on purpose so that everybody had a copy. And that,
They went like,
here you go. Nope, Shelton has one for you.
Just so you know, the commissioners didn't attend those meetings, but staff did. So if you have questions, probably the best source would be staff, would be
Right.
Michelle or Tom.
about the legislative suggestions.
Correct.
About anything that happened with the Rules Committee as their discussions and their meetings and things like that.
About legislation.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
So basically, right now, I think what we need to do is stick with the rules.
Right.
So that we get that straight.
And that's what the first
And we
two.
go to Annapolis, which we've done many times before about 2 of those issues that
Okay,
are being discussed.
Got it.
Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you.
All right.
Who's next? Anyone? Yes, no, maybe so?
Sure.
Okay. Name?
Mark Parker.
Okay.
Okay.
Just a question, Madam Secretary. You mentioned a little bit point number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the revised standard of operations for live entertainment, and you had a little bit of explanation of that. I don't know if Tom. I was interested in that, and I didn't know if Tom could explain further what the conversation was like around the Rules Committee, and it was hard to figure out if we were just clarifying the rule, or if we were strengthening it, or if we were loosening it. I guess that's a relative thing, but maybe knowing what the conversation was around the live entertainment would be helpful.
So, I mean, from a staff man, whilst Tom is going through his stuff, just from a staff standpoint, it was an issue that we had regarding, we charge 4.18 a lot. And we always wanted something that would delineate that. So Tom wrote a rule that delineated that issue.
Yes, and normally, what happens is applicants go to the zoning board to get approval for live entertainment, and then will come to the liquor board and then get approval for live entertainment to offer live entertainment in their establishments. What happens sometimes is we have applicants who get approval from zoning, but don't necessarily follow the proper steps and procedures to come to the liquor board and get live entertainment. You also have other licensees who never go to zoning and get approval for live entertainment. So in this case, and this is going to be recommended rule 4.14, if you want to turn to that.
Page 33.
Got it.
If you look, it here discusses what live entertainment is. It states that it is approved by the city and the board, and that language is included there to address both the zoning matter and the liquor board matter, in the sense that the applicant has to go through both hurdles before they can actually offer live entertainment. And if you look at section B, the definition of live entertainment there is the same definition of live entertainment used in the zoning code. So that way it's clear to our licensees and also the citizens of Baltimore what live entertainment is and what you necessarily need to do to allow for live entertainment at your establishment. And if you don't have live entertainment and our inspectors go out and make observations that live entertainment is going on at your establishment, you'll be charged under 4.14 instead of the illegal conduct. This is something very specific for live entertainment.
So it's not changing necessarily punishment or the severity of the offense in that.
One,
He's not picking you up.
Yeah, you have to go.
You're not going to be on TV.
Yeah.
Well, you know. So it doesn't change the severity of the offense in the eyes of the liquor board when such an incident comes before you, but it does make it more clear exactly what the problem is by laying it out like this.
Well, I can't speak for, how the board will take it into consideration, but I can state that this is something more specific as to what the actual incident or the violation is, because 4.18 covered a large swath of different
blanket.
violations, and people were like, well, this isn't illegal. People are just dancing.
Right.
So this kind of clarifies exactly what the violation is and what are the types of live entertainment or what are the types of things that the board and zoning considers live entertainment.
Appreciate it.
And it doesn't change the imposition of any fines or suspensions from the board. It just redefines a violation.
In categories. Yeah.
I mean, the only change that you have to the violation issue or the violation fines is in regards to the most recent, the recent law change that allows $1,000 for the first offense in the case of 4.10, which is the sale to minors that was introduced and passed by the legislature from Delegate Hayes. So we do have a change in regards to that one thing. Everything else for your first offense starts at caps at $500, but in the case of a sale to minors, that now can go to $1,000, and then the board is capped at $3,000. But we always have the suspend, revoke, and fine as our in part of the law.
Correct.
Yes, no? Okay.
Come on up, Becky. Okay,
Ms.
it's good,
Whit's
Becky.
coming up. She couldn't hold
You know,
back.
Becky, I unofficially recognized you, and you missed it. Yes, you missed it. Yeah.
Yeah. She congratulated you on your
I did.
attendance and comments.
Well, thank you. I do have written comments, which I will hand to you now. My name is Becky Witt, staff attorney at Community Law Center, and I represent nonprofits and mostly community associations in Baltimore City on a range of issues, one of which is the liquor board and liquor issues. Let's see how many copies. Maybe
Okay, take one, pass it down.
um,
I'll take two, me and Tom, and I'll pass the rest to you.
So, overall, I do think these proposed rules and regulations are a significant improvement from the rules as they currently exist, and I wanted to thank the agency for reviewing them by the deadline that was in Article 2B. And I'm not going to go through my comments line by line because that would take a long time. They're kind of long. But I wanted to highlight a few issues that I still see in the rules and regulations as they're currently drafted. And I think that the common thread through a lot of the main issues that I see have to do with my issues that I see in the agency as a whole, which is the failure to show its work. And what I mean by that is, you know, when you're learning math as a middle schooler, you learn how to solve a problem for x. And let's say in a given problem, the answer is that x equals 7. If you just write on as your answer x equals 7, you don't get full credit because you haven't shown all the steps to get there. And that's what I see kind of overall as an issue with the agency. I don't see the steps being taken to get to a certain answer. So technically there aren't correct answers at the agency like there are correct answers with math, but applications are either filled out or they're not. You're either considering the factors that you're supposed to consider under Article 2B or you're not. And we have no way of knowing if you're considering those factors unless you mention them. So that kind of leads me to the main sections of the rules that I think are missing and can be added. The first section is the criteria that the board has to consider when deciding whether to approve an application. They're referenced in the rules. It says, look to Article 2B, Section 10-202A2 when you're considering a transfer or a new application. But I think for clarity and for the communities to understand what the factors are, for the licensees to know by what factors they're being evaluated, I think it makes sense to list them in the rules themselves. They're also referred to vaguely in a few places in the proposed rules as public need and accommodation. And that's kind of the shorthand that the agency has used to refer to these set of criteria. But public need and desire is just the first criterion out of 5. So I don't think that's a very accurate shorthand for the full list of 5 criteria. So the second omission that I noticed from the proposed rules is any mention of hardship extensions. I don't think there's any rules in the set of proposed rules about hardship extensions, and that law is found in 10504D. So as you know, the licensees are allowed to cease selling alcoholic beverages for 180 days. On the 181st day, the license expires unless you've applied for a hardship extension. And then the board has to hold a public hearing and decide whether you qualify for one. And it's completely within the board's discretion. So there's a specific provision in 10504D that the board has to make a determination that an undue hardship currently exists that caused the closing or cessation of business operations. And I think it's important that everyone understand what that criteria is before they apply for a hardship extension and before the board grants one. There's also a section in Article 2B that's not mentioned in the rules that says if a license, an establishment has been closed for 3 consecutive months, that you need to have a public hearing before you can reopen, and I don't think that's in the rules either. So I think that should be added. As far as the rules as they exist in draft form, I wanted to highlight a couple things, and these are things that the Rules Committee talked about extensively. So the first is the substitution provision in Rule 2.03. As it's currently written, the rule doesn't require public notice or a public hearing when licensees are added or removed at renewal time. And I think that that really can and should be improved to at least provide public notice to people that a licensee is being added at renewal. I think maybe the board could publish right after renewal, maybe a list of all the licensees that have been added so that people could look for them. Otherwise, licensees kind of pop on and off of licenses, and as long as they own less than 50% of the business, there's no notice to the community, and I think that that's problematic. And then the BD7 regulations have kind of already been touched on. I think the proposed rules kind of loosen the BD7 regulations, which I don't think is ideal, but I think it's within the board's discretion to do that. I think what I heard in the committee quite a bit is that the committee and the agency are kind of setting the bar at whatever the licensees are currently doing. And I think as the regulator, you have the authority to expect more from your licensees than what they're currently doing. And certainly not every BD7 licensee is a problem. A lot of them are great, but those do tend to be the kinds of licenses that we get the most complaints about. So it's a good idea to spend some time thinking about them and why they sometimes cause problems. And I think that the term tavern, this is something that came up quite a bit in the discussion. The word tavern has been redefined to basically not mean what the plain language meaning of tavern is, which is a place for on-site consumption. Again, that is probably within the board's discretion, but it's confusing to the community for a business to be called a tavern that basically does not sell to people who want to drink there. So again, I have a lot of things in my written comments, but those were just the things I wanted to highlight, and to thank the board for updating its rules. Thank you.
Thank you. Just for the record, I know that the commissioners have been taking notes. I've been taking notes, even while you've been speaking. And the commissioners will listen to all of the public comments, and then we'll get together and they'll decide on the final draft, which will go down. So we hear everything that everybody has to say, and we're making notes of what everybody has to say. And it will all be considered. Everything's on the table. I don't want to speak for the other commissioners, but speak for myself.
Again, Mark Parker. I know that Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark was focused on this fourth page of the presentation, the recommendations for legislative session. These recommendations did come out of the rules review process. And
That's
so
correct.
even though they aren't proposed in the rules themselves, are these still subject to our public comment today and at the next meeting? And are they subject to revision if we disagree with them, or do we have to take the fight to Annapolis?
I think the issue is that there were so many things that, as a group, that we discussed that were out of our control because of the fact that there's state law prohibitions, that it became necessary to kind of put them, to have a parking lot and to let people know that these are items that really need to be addressed on a state level and couldn't be addressed in the the rules. So I think at this point, and I'll let the commission also talk about it, but at this point, I think because of the Herculean task of trying to get the rules done and getting the right public comment on the rules, it's probably paramount to get the rules commented on, and then you can always submit, legislative issues, but those were just issues that came out of that committee because of the fact that they were kind of parking lot issues, and we did not want to distract the board.
I appreciate that. That makes sense. So then, will the commissioners at some point be voting to approve these recommendations, or just the rules themselves?
I think that's what they'll need to decide.
Okay. Chairman Neal, you had just mentioned that all comments are going to be taken into consideration. I really appreciate that. Will there be an update based on between now and the 3rd? Will there be a further change in the rules, or will it be the same document we look at on the 3rd?
I believe it's the same document. I can't say that because I've already posted
Sure.
for the 3rd and 14th. I want to make sure that I'm out. So it's posted for the 3rd. What's out there is out there. But what I'll do is I will add the comments that we have received formally in writing from both Ms. Witt and from the planning department, and I will add those to our website.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you all.
Good morning. Minda Goldberg, City Solicitor's Office. I just wanted to comment on these legislative recommendations. My understanding, am I not?
You can pull it down to you.
I'm
That
a
way
little
you can-
shorter. These were not really recommendations of the committee. These were just ideas that certain members raised. There was no voting on them. There was just, here they are. So they're not an endorsement from the committee. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Fogelman.
Mr. Fogelman, how are you?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, Commissioners. I wanted to, since we're talking about the legislative recommendations, I thought it might be a good time for me to indicate that, though some may not know it, the board for decades has had legislative recommendations to Annapolis in order to allow the agency to function properly. Never before have they been, quite frankly, publicly discussed. And I don't think any statute requires the liquor board to publicly discuss their legislative wish list. Every agency in the city and in the state has their own legislative wish list, and there's no legal requirement for any public comment on that legislative package. That having been said, I think it's great in the interest of transparency that this board is publicly talking about legislative possible changes. So I want to commend you on that, and thank you, especially the people who volunteered on the committee to do this very important work. And with respect to the legislative package, I am happy to let you know that with former Deputy Executive Secretary Jane Schroeder, I have provided some draft language to Article 2B, Section 10503D4, a section which the prior board had misinterpreted with disastrous economic consequences to small businesses through no fault of their own who had been declared without licenses. So in that regard, again, I want to thank you all for your participation in this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Very much. Any other comments from anyone? Yes, no, maybe so? Okay, we will continue our regular docket at 1 o'clock.
Right, and just so that we know, it's that you have only 2 items on the regular docket. We've removed all the transfers and new applications. The only one you'll be hearing is regards to a hardship extension and the violation hearing for Diamond Gems. So those are the 2 for the 1 o'clock.
Okay,
Okay?
and then we'll have continued comments on the 3rd.
Yes, sir.
4.
4 o'clock.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
When is there a discussion? Didn't change much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Today is November 19th, 2015. This is the Board of Liquor License Commissioners for Baltimore City. This is our 1 p.m. docket. Chairman, do you want me to start off with the first item?
Yes, ma'am.
Great. The first item is a hardship extension. We're going to skip down to the regular docket. Kevin Cooper, Margaret Kocher, DKJC LLC. Trade name is Porter's Pub at 1030-32 Riverside Avenue. This is a Class BD7, beer, wine, and liquor, a request for hardship extension under 2B, Article 10, 504D. Just for a matter of record, I did receive an email in regards to this item from Mr. Robinson. He had some inquiries in regards to this issue, I believe that he talked to Tom Akris in our office, and we informed him that since this was a transfer, this was not a transfer, this was a hardship extension, that he could raise some of those issues in the transfer. But his email has been added to the file, and I want to note that publicly on the record today.
For the record, Melvin J. Kadensky requesting the hardship. To my left is the former licensee who was under Mr. Cooper. To my right is the landlord who is now the secured creditor licensee. The former licensee operated the place least with the liquor license through April the 30th of this year, result of which he actually operated past April 30th without a license, but that's not neither here nor here. And there at that point, the current landlord has a security interest who's represented by his attorney here, had filed for the transfer for back rent and so forth to him as a secured party, was transferred on October the 27th as a secured party. And this point here, trying to either get together with the former licensee or somebody else and get the place operational so that he can recoup some of his money. So that's the request for the hardship would be that he be granted a 108-day extension. I think we could use the date April 30th just to be sure, although Mr. Cooper said he was open past that without a license, but I'm not going to get into that issue.
He did file for his renewal. He just hasn't paid for it. So they did file for the renewal in a timely manner.
But he
so
didn't
it
have
does,
a license
right.
after that.
I'm
We paid for the license and we have it.
right. I just wanted to note that there was a renewal filed, just for the record and what's in the file.
Was the fee paid?
Yes, Mr. Kadinsky, the landlord did pay the fee for it, so it has been paid and it's an active status.
So it's past 180 days.
We filed before the 108 days.
They filed before the 100. They filed on October 16th. They filed their request. October 16th. So let me make sure I'm looking at my time.
So this will not be operated. This will be sold.
The secure party cannot operate. So he's in the process of either vetting. I
Vetting
hate to
new
use that word. People use it. The only thing I remember about vet is a Corvette. But, or was it Corvettes with the four Koreans, whatever. This is he's the landlord, he's trying to get on either, or he's going to be talking with the prior licensee, see whether or not they can make some kind of arrangement. So he feels that it can be done within this 108-day extension.
So this is just a hardship extension. not a
Correct.
transfer.
No other transfer.
I don't see-
I'm a yes.
I'm fine with it.
Just financial difficulties, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. No problem.
Thank you.
That's good.
Where's the,
I know. You can give me the
Comptroller's
cash.
not here?
I know the comptroller's not here.
Drinking.
You can just a check for the $100. I will take it from you.
give me a check for $100.
Uh,
Well, if he wants to give me a check,
Let me read in the next item and I'll have it ready for you. A check. So, you know what? Yeah, I'll give it to you and you can go back and take care of it. 2 seconds. All right. I can take it tomorrow. We're fine.
That's easy when they say that, isn't
Okay.
it?
Do you have the next one?
If you guys are fine, I'll just make sure you guys get it. That's no problem. All right, let me go on to the next one.
Tim, as opposed to-
We'll send a note. We'll send a letter. Okay.
Not with relation to this case. I have a question for you. Based on your comments from 11 o'clock, okay, I just have a question. No, on the record. This is Ms. Witt. My question to you is on these cases where we have a hardship extension, is this one of the instances where you're commenting that we should put the reasons why we grant that, or is it just the transfers? I want to make sure that I got it.
process.
The process. I want to make sure that I got it right, okay?
Let me just grab Article 2B.
Well, you have it right there.
Well, I got it, but I just want to hear it from her.
I want to just explain what I meant. So
Okay,
under 10504D,
I have it. Yeah, I have it.
So it's, what is it, D? Thank you. 4. After a hearing conducted on the extension request on a finding that undue hardship currently exists causing the closing or cessation of business operations, the board may grant an extension of the life of the license. So I read that to mean that the board has to make a finding that there's currently an undue hardship that closed or made the business close or cease selling alcoholic beverages.
So Mr. Trotter's question about financial hardship would suffice for that.
I think so.
Okay.
If the board believes that the financial hardship is an undue hardship that currently exists that caused the closing, then I think, yeah.
Okay, all right. I want to check. I want to make sure.
So you have
All
to
right.
ask that question.
Huh?
Great.
Fires, whatever it is.
No, I'm good. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, I'm ready.
Okay. Michael Bugner and Carolyn Lasalle, Diamond Gyms Inc. Trade name is Diamond Lounge at 415 East Baltimore Street. This is a Class BD7. There are a series of 4 charges. The first 2 charges are for October 3rd, 2015. One is prohibitive hours. We have all the officers here. They're going to come up to the front. In that instance, a Baltimore City officer on routine foot patrol came in to the establishment that was operating past 2 a.m. And that's allegedly. And I'm just
That's the
reading, just in the allegations.
We've been through this before.
The second item,
No, we know. all
the
this.
second item is a allegation against violation of Adult Entertainment Rule 9, code compliance, and that's also in regards to the 2 a.m. issue. The third charge is a violation charge in regards to violation 3.03, employee records. On September 5th, Officer Greenhill from the Vice Squad responded to an assault, an alleged assault, and asked for a copy of employee records for Digita Jones, and who was under the age of 18. Then there's a further charge in regards to a possible violation of Rule 2, minimum age of dancer, that also occurred on September 5th, 2015, in regards to Miss Jones being under the age of 18. And that's it.
Okay, let's, Mr. Court Reporter, let's have all 5 of these folks sworn in, because I don't know who's going to testify. Mr. Kandensky doesn't have to be sworn in.
Raise your right hands. Do you swear or affirm the testimony that you're about to give in this hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Now, what we're going to do first is the one with Officer Accord.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're going to do you first with your testimony, because that's first in our docket, and then we're going to let Mr. Kandensky ask you questions on cross. Okay, and then we're going to do you, because it was a different day, and then the same thing, so.
May she get a copy of the report, of her report?
She's getting it.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem.
And Miss Accord, what's your first name?
Ashley, A-S-H-L-E-Y.
Do you need to take a minute to look at it, or?
I just need a second.
Okay.
Go sit down.
Are you good? Because if you're not, if you need time to refresh your recollection, I can do,
The September 5th first?
yes. Let's do, huh?
I should be ready.
Call. Okay.
On October 3rd, 2015, at 2:05 hours while on the 400 block of Baltimore Street, I noticed numerous patrons who do not work at the Diamond Lounge, 415 and a half East Baltimore Street, exiting the club. Upon further investigation, I observed numerous open containers of alcohol on the bar in front of patrons, to include a patron who had not paid. I advised the manager, Miss Melissa L. Glacier, she would be in violation of her liquor license and it would be reported under the CC number.
Okay.
And the manager you talked to, do you see her here today?
I do.
She's standing to my right, is that
Correct,
correct?
sir.
And along with that, according to your testimony, excuse me, did you see anybody drinking or you just saw drinks on the bar?
From what I remember, they were finishing their drinks.
Do you know who they were?
I do not.
Do you have anybody's name?
I do not.
So you didn't take anybody's name or you didn't take what they were drinking?
There was other officers in there with me.
Now, who were they be?
Sergeant Klein, Lieutenant Roden, and Officer Hymas.
None of which are here.
No, sir.
Okay. And along with that, there were no arrests made?
No, sir.
Do you remember talking to the manager and she was explaining that the one person there was trying to check out, to close his checkout?
From my recollection, I don't remember.
Remember her showing you the credit card machines?
I do not recall.
But she could have showed you those, is that correct? So there was a problem with the credit card machines?
I don't believe so.
You don't believe she said that to you? So if she says that, you don't recall, but now you recall?
I do not recall.
Okay. I have no further questions.
How do you know that these were alcoholic beverages that these people were consuming?
They stated they were alcoholic beverages.
Who stated?
When we were asking the manager and the patrons.
Okay,
But
There was
back-
other employees as well walking around.
okay.
But back to what you were saying, you don't know who any of these people are.
But stop.
I know they weren't the strippers from the club.
No. But normally, you stop me on this, I'm speeding my car. Don't you ask me who I am? You just don't say, I stopped somebody in a Cadillac and I gave him a ticket. Well, who was it?
Mr. Kaninsky, can I ask you a question?
Mm-hmm.
What difference does it make?
Well, because the question is that if we don't know who they were and if their names aren't there, and we have testimony about an individual, Ernie so-and-so, it would be bolster our case if we would know who they were. I mean, certainly.
But-
It seems like, but I don't want
Go
to,
ahead.
I will interrupt, but I don't tell. It seems to me in a lot of these cases, we have it and nobody knows who they are. You're there, she's there with Sergeant Klein and two things, and we don't have a name of anybody except the manager who's here, and she's here.
So the violation is
Against the bar.
prohibited hours and consuming past 2 o'clock. What do we care what person it was, as long as they were patrons in the bar?
Well, because
You
you're
care.
assuming what she says is true already, which I think is prejudicial. What I'm saying is, if they were saying, she says Doug Trotter was there and he was drinking, and Ben Neal and Elizabeth Hafey was there drinking, I could then bring you three in. You say, listen, we weren't drinking, we were checking out, and those drinks they were taking off. I can't do that because you don't give that to me to do. And when you think that when you charge somebody, what are the most important things in law? Who, where, what, when, and why. Those are the ones that you need all the time. And when you don't have them, guess what? Your investigation is not, good for me to, you're saying, oh, they had drinks. Where were they? They told you there were alcohol. Who told you there were alcohol? Well, they. Well, they is not the ones who are charged here. And I think you need a little bit more than that, just then jump to the assumption that what they're saying is true. Now, I'm not saying that what the officer didn't see what she came in there, but I mean, you have all these other officers. It was so easy. It wasn't like she was there and she was overwhelmed with 20 people. No, you, Mr. Trotter, you take these three, you take these three, and let's get to who they are. Are they employees or not employees, or, it's so easy to do that. Why isn't that done in this case here? We're not talking about some place it's like 3 o'clock in the morning and music is playing and, people are dancing around a pole. That's not the case. But if that's the case so far, I'll just then put our testimony on.
Can I ask a question? The containers outside,
I'm sorry.
were the containers outside?
Outside of the Diamond Lounge?
Uh-huh.
No.
There was nobody drinking outside the Diamond Lounge?
No, sir.
Okay.
You're saying that they were drinking at the bar, okay.
It's a common practice. We close the block every Friday and Saturday night, and usually by 2 a.m. the block is pretty much clear because most people who work on the block know the ritual. So when we were going through that side of the block clearing out, the bouncer was giving us a hard time. That's what drew our attention to go inside, and that's when we had noticed the open containers, patrons still in there, which, like I said, normally by 2 a.m. the block is clear at that point. Besides the workers that have already been dressed and are coming out.
Okay.
That leads me to my next question. You know what it is? Who was the bouncer? What was his name?
We ID'd him, but I don't have his name with me today. But we did ID him that night.
Got that part, but there's nowhere it's in the report.
The violation wasn't against him.
I got it. But you're talking in answer to a question. Did anybody else do a report besides you?
No, sir, because normally one
No,
officer writes
that's
the
fine. The
report.
answer's no. I got it. So, but all those other people were there, but you're the only one who wrote the report, and we don't have the names. That's fine. Not fine. That's the answer.
Any other questions?
No.
Testimony
Sure.
on this one? Okay.
You want to state your name and address for the record?
Melissa Lane Glazer, 8021 Wood Avenue, 21219.
Spell that last name.
GLAESER.
And you are the person that was mentioned in the police report?
Yes, sir.
You were the manager?
Yes, sir.
Now, on that particular day, you heard the police officer's testimony about people that were there drinking after 2 o'clock.
Yes, sir.
Did that take place?
No, sir.
All right. Was there someone in there that after 2 o'clock?
Yes, sir.
Who was the name of that person?
It was a regular customer. His name is Ian Sandler. On this day, we received a new credit card machine. We switched from the old credit card machine to the new chip reader. At the end of the night, he had moved to the front of the bar to check out his tab. The credit card machine would not work. I tried to unplug and switch into the old credit card machine to see if we could get it to go through that way without any luck. After that, he offered to go to the ATM to pay his tab, and that's what he did. And that's when the officers came in, when he was in the process of paying his tab and leaving out. Normally, he would not have been in there after 2.
Was he drinking at the time?
No. There were glasses on the bar because we were in the process of closing down, but trying to get his tab taken care of and him to exit the building at the same time.
And you know him because he comes in how many times a week, you said?
1 to 3, sometimes 4 or 5.
He's a regular.
Yes.
All right. And he wasn't drinking, he was trying to clear his tab out.
Yes.
All right. And the other people in there were not drinking.
No.
Okay. And you're there, how long you been a manager?
Since May.
So you're there on all these nights, is that correct?
Yes.
Now, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
Where is he?
Mr.
Well, you wanted all the other witnesses. I'm just asking where the
Oh, I
other.
got the lady to talk to him right here. She's going to testify.
No, where is he?
Where's he?
He won't come down tonight. If we want to go down there tonight, we'll see.
No, I don't want to go down there tonight. You
We
want
need a
people to
witness.
come in today. Where is he?
I don't have it. I just got the name when she came in here. At least I got a name.
Okay. What's good for the goose is good for the gander then, isn't it?
Well, depends what kind of goose you got.
All right. Okay.
Fine.
No, we're not going to call anybody.
I'm going to.
It's his responsibility to have witnesses
I know.
here if he wants them. He wants other witnesses. I'm just asking where the witness is, that's all. Okay,
You want to step up?
go ahead.
And state your name and address to the record, please.
Angela Boner, 48 Mapledale Avenue, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061.
And you work at the Diamond, is that correct?
Yes, I'm assistant manager.
And then you are familiar with the gentleman, is that correct?
And yes, a very good customer of mine, very good friend.
And he comes in 2 or 3 times a week?
To see me and hang out, yeah.
And he explained to you that he was not drinking after 2 o'clock?
Ian doesn't really drink after 12 because he has to drive. He drinks bottles of water.
And he confirmed the situation that was just given by Melissa, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
That's all I have on
Anybody
that
else?
case.
What is the rule of getting all beverages off the bars by 2 o'clock? Is there a rule to that?
Well, that's not
We
the
go-
charge they have here, though.
No, but it's
Usually
drinking.
the rule is that the people have to be, people can't have drinks in front of them after 2 o'clock.
Because you're supposed to be closed at 2 o'clock.
No, not exactly, because you have places that are open after 2 o'clock that have alcohol.
Yeah, under their licenses.
Yeah, and there are also places that you can have employees that are there after 2 o'clock. It could be on the premises.
Not
This-
drinking.
Yeah, and in this place, we don't know who those people were because we don't have been given that information.
Okay, just asking.
Oh, so well, I mean, the reason why we have prohibitive hours is because the hours of operation, you should cease operation of the premises at the legal time. And I think that's the reason why we did prohibitive hours. But we did not charge the issue of drinking after. We do have a charge with serving customers after hours. We do have two different charges, which we didn't charge that one.
It says no
Yeah.
licensee shall to consume.
Right, consume or right, and we did not do the consume.
So we had no proof of that?
Well, I think that that's a basic report, and we wanted to make sure that we brought in the officer. But from just the onset of it, it was more of the fact that they still had people in there after hours that were customers, and that they appeared to be open. I think that's the issue. Alleged customers, and that they appeared to be open.
There was only one non-employee.
We know what.
Let's hear from the vice squad.
Right.
You're up next. September 5th.
Thank you, officer.
Thank you, officer. Yes, sir.
On 5 September.
Identify yourself for the record first, I'm sorry.
No problem, no problem. Detective Greenhill, Vice Unit, SES.
Thank you.
All right. On 5 September of this year at 9:55 p.m., your writer received a call from Central District Police Units to respond to 415 East Baltimore Street, known as Diamond Lounge. As your writer arrived on scene, Central District Units advised your writer of an incident that took place inside the establishment known as Diamond Lounge. One of the police units states a black female later identified as Dedita Jones, female black, 17 years of age, with a date of... with a date of birth of 9/13/97.
Okay. Go ahead.
Was dancing inside a Diamond Lounge. A black male, later identified as Marcus Brown, approached the said female and asked her for sex. Ms. Jones claimed she was offended by Mr. Brown's offer, which ensued into a verbal and physical altercation with Mr. Brown and several employees of the establishment. The manager on duty for that night was Melissa Lynn Glacier, female white, 37, with a date of birth of 10/8/77. States she is familiar with Miss Jones herself and advised your writer that Miss Jones was attempting to dance for the evening at the club but did not have valid identification. As a result of the discrepancy, Ms. Glacier states Ms. Jones became argumentative with her and other employees, which led to the physical altercation. At that time, police units services were notified. During the investigation at the scene, Ms. Jones nor the employees, to include manager Ms. Glacier, wanted to follow up with charges on each other, provided Ms. Dedita Jones not return to the Diamond Lounge. Ms. Jones did advise your writer that she had been dancing. She had been dancing at that club for 5 months now and was hired by Marcus Brown. Further investigation, your writer wasn't able to speak to Marcus Brown because he fled the scene prior to police arriving on the scene. Mr. Brown also, at that time, I found out that he had an active warrant for his arrest. Manager Ms. Glazier states Mr. Brown is also an employee of the establishment as well. Furthermore, your writer believes no one at the club wanted to pursue the matter due to the fact that Ms. Jones may in fact be underage. The club's employee records were not accurate concerning information on hand for Ms. Dedita Jones. It was later revealed to your writer that Ms. Jones may have worked at other area clubs on the block. Report forwarded to the liquor board.
All right, let me ask you this. You said the club employees' records were not accurate. You did look at the employee records from Ms. Glacier, is that correct? She has the records?
She has the records now, but that day,
No, no.
that particular incident,
Was it the fact that she didn't have a record because she told you that this particular person did not work there?
true, that is true.
Okay, now let's go back. So that you indicated that Marcus Brown fled the scene. Did you see him leave?
No, when I got on scene, he wasn't there.
So he didn't flee the scene, he just wasn't there.
Well,
What makes a big difference? I'll read this, it means like you
But-
saw him and he was running down the alley and he got away from you.
but that means Central District Units was also on the scene, and they failed to speak to him as well.
No, I got that. So he didn't flee the scene, he just left. Correct? Did you ever see him?
I never saw him.
Never saw him. Okay, so you never saw Marcus Brown. Now what kind of identification did she show you, Miss Jones?
Miss Jones didn't have any identification.
All right, so now we're getting back. Now we're starting to get this thing together. Did you see her dancing?
No,
You never saw her dancing?
no.
Okay. When was the first time you saw her?
When I arrived on scene,
Where was she?
outside in the street on the block.
Okay. And the state of birth that you have here, where did you get that from?
From officers on the scene that got the date of birth from her, questioning her.
Yeah, but did anybody see her date of birth?
They just going off of what she told them, and she didn't have identification herself.
That's exactly, I'm trying to get that point. Do we have an address on her?
It wasn't given to me.
Yeah, we're okay. But nobody has an address to bring her here. That's what I'm trying to get to that point. But see, you have officers outside, you have officers inside, and you got this lady here, and what are you gonna say to you? Hey, Mrs. Jones, what's your address? Okay, and then you say, all right, and then the board would say, I would think, this is important. Let's get her here and find out who she is and how old she is, and whether or not she's pulling a scam here. Thank you very much. And along with that, we don't have that. And the altercation that you were talking about, you didn't see an altercation, correct?
That's correct.
But you did have a chance to talk with the manager?
Yes.
And did you talk with one of the other employees?
Yes.
Did they tell you that she had to be physically ejected from the club?
Yes.
Did you see this young lady had a broken hand or her hand was injured?
I can't recall if she had a brace on her hand or not. So.
All right. And was it the fact that the young lady, Ms. Jones, let's call her, she was outside and had to physically, somebody had to tell her to get away. Is that correct?
From my understanding, employees had to physically get her out the club.
Take her up and take her out. Okay. I have no further questions. All right. Can I just use the mic here?
You can, if you,
There's another one.
you can use
See,
this
she
one.
wants to give you that one.
See, that way you can use that one. That way he can use it for his
Little
clients.
square ones are for the court reporter, that's for the TV.
Yeah, he always claims he can't hear anything.
Okay.
State your name and address. He's not listening. So. State your name and address.
Melissa Lane Glazer, 8021 Wood Avenue, Baltimore, Maryland, 21219.
Once again, you were the manager on this particular night.
Yes, sir.
As far as records, you have employee records. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
And these are the ones that you had. You didn't have an employee record for Ms. Jones because she was not an employee.
Correct.
Okay. Now let's just. These are much better than I usually say. You know, I'd like maybe let you all see them.
Are you going to attempt to prove a negative with that book?
No.
I mean, okay.
I just want to say, they were talking about employee records. They did have employees. He said he just didn't have one for this employee. If we were right there, we're okay.
Okay.
All right. Number two, with regard to this Miss Jones, was she in the establishment that night?
Yes.
All right. And you saw her. Where was she?
When I entered the bar, I went back to the dressing room to find out where girls were working that evening, and I seen her in the women's restroom inside the dressing room.
All right. Was she an employee?
No,
Was she supposed to dance?
absolutely not. She was told prior to that she was not allowed to work there because she couldn't produce an ID.
All right. So she had been there, what, before that, couple days before?
A couple of days before, she had tried to attempt to work, and we wouldn't let her enter the building because she couldn't produce ID.
And then what happened after you told her that she couldn't work there?
On this particular
Yeah.
night, she jumped up off of the toilet. She was half dressed, attempting to get into her dance clothes, and she basically charged at me. I walked out into the hallway where she jumped on me and pulled me down to the ground. And that's when all the commotion started, and other employees came over to see what the situation was and to try to break up. I mean, she had a hold of my shirt. I was topless from the waist up in front of the whole club. It took 5-6 people to get her off of me.
Did it appear that she was under the influence of something at the time?
She had to have been, I'm not sure if it was alcohol or drugs, but it took at least 5-6 grown people to help get her out of the building.
All right. At that time?
We also, actually, Angie also went over to the carryout that's next door and got one of the off-duty officers to come in and help us after the first couple minutes of us trying to get her out.
And then your hand, what happened to your hand? You said you.
Well, my hand was broke after that. She pulled me down onto the ground, and my hand slammed down onto the ground. She also punched the door guy that was working that day in the face, and we have runners downtown that go to the store for the girls who can't leave the bar. She bit him on the cheek to the point where he had to be seen by the ambulance.
All right. And then how did you get her? How many people took her upstairs?
It was about 5 or 6. The gentleman from the carryout came over. One of the security guards from the bar next door came over. It took about 5 or 6 grown men to carry her out of the building.
All right. So she didn't work there. She wanted to work there. You wouldn't let her work there because she didn't have any ID.
Correct.
And then when you told her she couldn't work there, she became violent and did what was
Yeah.
there.
And the day that was in the back in the dressing room. She came in at shift change where the door guy was getting ice for the next shift. The bartender was doing paperwork, and she kind of just slipped under the radar into the back. And as soon as I noticed her, I told her she had to exit the building.
And she hasn't been back since then? You haven't seen her since then? Okay. Any questions on another witness?
Who's Mr. Brown?
He is one of the security officers there. And one point on that, he definitely did not hire this girl. The assistant manager and other bartender can testify, no door guys or security guys do any hiring of any females.
Okay, but did you testify, officer, that Mr. Brown had an active warrant out on him?
That's all. Yes, I did, because Central District Units is familiar with Mr. Brown and basically ran a check on him and
It was
knew
for
that
a
he already had a
traffic
warrant on
case.
him. They already knew he had a warrant out on him.
Was he ever picked up for a warrant since he worked there?
No.
He still works there. He's there today. So if he's got a warrant, he
He's
can go
not
there and
there
serve.
today. He's
Well, I mean,
actually at his other
he can
job.
go serve the warrant. That's never happened.
He has no warrant now. It was a traffic warrant that's already been taken care of.
How long has he been working there?
He's been working, well, he worked there before I was the manager for a couple months, and then he's been back there since a little bit before May.
The process is that you can work in adult entertainment venues without checking if a person has active warrants? Is that the process you follow? You don't check your people?
No, it was for a traffic case.
If it's a warrant, it's a warrant.
Yeah, but how would you know that?
Well, you should check.
Well, every day. I mean, if you were on a suspended license today, I checked yesterday. I wouldn't know you have a warrant on you. We don't do that every day.
No,
I mean, I
you
do
don't
that as a
do that,
living.
okay.
I don't know I don't
Okay.
do it.
I'm just wanted to clarify.
And we don't know it's a warrant because nobody has it here, and he's never been served with it.
Officer says he has a warrant.
But he,
Time of the incident.
At the time of the
time
but
of the incident.
if I ask him what it's for, what was it for? Nobody knows.
Okay.
Was it for traffic? Was it for child support? Do we know?
No.
There we go. See, I mean, and we always jump on, the poor guy that's trying to make a living there. We don't have any information. Can I pull another witness up? Anybody? This is eyewitness testimony. State your name and address for the record, please.
Angela Boner, 48 Mapledale Avenue, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21061.
And you were working there that night?
Yep.
All right, and you've been assistant manager for how long?
A little over a year and a half. Been there for 3 years now.
This lady that we're talking about, this young lady here, was she ever an employee there?
I've never seen her before this day. Like, I had no idea where she came from. So when they asked me for the books, I'm just like, here, I don't know this girl. This was the first time I ever seen, and I haven't seen her since. So I couldn't even pick her out if I
When was
tried.
the first time you saw her?
The night when she grabbed her shirt. That was the first time I saw her that day.
And did you help pull them apart? And then after that, how did she get out of the club upstairs?
It took a bunch of grown men to carry her out, and she ripped down our chain curtains that hang in the back, and they took her out with the chain curtains and sat her outside, and she threw them in the street. Like, the girl was crazy. Absolutely crazy.
I have no further questions.
And she got into your dressing rooms.
I didn't see her go in the dressing room. She was already there. When we do shift change, it's a lot of chaos. Girls are coming in and girls are coming out. When they come out on the floor, we, get IDs. We make sure everything's ready. But when she went back to go check the IDs and to check the list to make a dance list, because I was still doing paperwork from day shift, she noticed her, and that's when everything went down.
How did she?
How did the police get notified?
I ran up the stairs and went and got the officer at Mama's. Yes. The little convenience store next door. I ran up the stairs and tried to get help because it was just.
But how did the vice department, how did the police officers come?
What do you mean? They were called.
They were called by who?
The officer in Mama's, the off-duty officer.
Okay.
Because I ran outside to get help.
So he called 911.
Do you check IDs?
I check IDs nightly, and I've actually gotten a habit now that they stay in the register.
Check IDs when they come into
Yes,
the club.
nightly. If you do not have your ID, you cannot work.
No,
How
but
did
you
she
check
get into
ID. Go.
How did she get into the club?
It's
without
when they
ID?
get dressed and they come out to the floor on the bar. I take their ID and I check their ID. And if they
Right.
don't have it, then you have to get dressed and leave.
I understand that. How did she get into the establishment without checking her ID?
I have no idea. The doorman could have been getting ice. I mean, it's a shift change. Girls are coming in and out at shift change.
Well, if they want to see it, I mean,
Once the girls get dressed and on the floor, we take their IDs. And their whole ID gets copied and their ID goes into the register.
Person can speak, sorry.
One person at a time.
And then the ID goes into the register. So if there's a problem, we already have their ID right here in front in the register, and then they get their ID back with their payout. So everything gets copied nightly.
Officer, did you talk to the person that called?
No, like I said, on this night, I was elsewhere in the city. Central District units notified me by police radio. I responded that way.
Thanks.
that would be the licensee's case.
Priors?
Well, we want to
That-
make a finding before we,
Okay,
other than taking a field trip,
well, we can do that too.
let me go over the first situation here is with regard to people being in there under that rule. I don't think that was a violation of this prohibitive hours on the thing. As to the question that we don't know who, what, where, when, and why. We know the one gentleman there who was there trying to check out. And on that case there, I think it certainly would, behoove everybody to be able to find out who these people were. It's not that hard. I can tell you right now that in most of the places that I know that I represent, son-in-law, if you got a card, they take the card from you if you don't think it. You don't get it back. You just don't get it back. They find out who you are and where you're there, and they want to make sure that you're the person, because you could come back the next day and say something happened, and it didn't happen. So I don't think in this case that was under 405, under that section, was proven. The second case, we don't know how old this person is. Two, we don't even know that nobody saw her working there doing anything, that she was a dancer. Three, the best testimony you got from the two individuals that they were here that told her she couldn't work and were rejecting her at the time when this happened. I think they did the right thing, and they're here trying to defend themselves in front of you all because they did the right thing, because they're trying to get the girl out, and she wouldn't. Took 5 of them to get them out. She broke her hand. She went upstairs and got her. And we're here. Where is Jaquita Jones? We don't know. What's her address? We don't know. What happened to her? We don't know. I just don't understand how you can have cases where you don't have enough information to go forward to get all the principal witnesses. Lieutenant Green comes on the scene. Detective. I'm sorry. I didn't make you a lieutenant. All right, we'll get that. He comes on the scene after it's all over. They're all outside, okay? What happened inside, nobody knows, etc. And he did the right thing. I'm not saying that, but how is that? They did the right thing. They go next to the call, get the person out. Where's the violation here? Not an employee. She's never had a record of an employee. They don't have how old she is. She just gives some kind of date. When I would ask you first of all, I would say to you, what's your name? And you say, I'm Doug Trotter. Where do you live? And the first 2 things that I asked you, then I'd say, let me see your thing for your, assuming you were younger, your date of birth. I might would probably card Miss Hafey. No, you go to some places, you go to High Tops on York Road, they card me. You cannot get in and drink unless you got a driver's. You cannot.
Because it's their family and.
No, they don't. They card.
They know your trouble, and that's your family.
They asked me for my Geneva Convention card. That's how bad it is over there for me. But I mean, you would want them to go ahead and do that. And so some of the ladies, when they later on, they get like that. But I don't think we have any evidence in that case at all.
Let me ask you a rhetorical question, just a rhetorical question. Where's the police officer from next door? And where are the 5 people that carried her out? I mean, if we want all the people here, if we want everybody here, where are they?
You got two of them that are here. And the one, and forget that. Forget all that. Just for saying rhetorically, if you don't have Mrs. Jones, you don't go to step 2. You don't have a victim. You don't have a crime. You've got to have step 1 before you go to step 2. You're already at step 4. We never got past 1.
Let me ask another question. The lady officer said that it's a common practice on the block to shut it down at 2 o'clock. Is that understood by everybody? Right. Okay?
Well, I don't know if it's understood by anybody. I guess I can't say that's true, but I mean,
It's
that's a common.
I would imagine it's a common practice.
Well, they do a sweep. Don't you do a sweep? Sweep.
Well, you have to have her come up.
Around 12:30, 1 o'clock, about 4 to 5 of us will go down there and we'll start clearing people out. And then around 1:30, a few more people will show up, and we have.
So you expect the block to be cleaned out by 2 o'clock on the dot?
Correct, because we have cones out, so cars can't even come through the 400 block of Baltimore Street. We have our police cars with our lights on, so no one can get through.
So it's well known that this practice goes on.
Correct.
Okay.
But in reference to that, you don't shut the whole block down.
Well, once people leave the block, they can't come back on it.
So if I leave the block, I go get a hot dog across the street. I got to leave.
Correct. After a certain time, yes. That's the
If
whole point of
if I'm
closing
on
the
the block, I can't go eat a hot dog. Is that what you're telling me?
Say that again, sir?
I can't go eat a hot dog across the street.
What was the first thing you said before that?
If I come out of the
Right,
diamond,
if
I can
the-
go over and get a hot dog.
But you cannot come back. That's
Can't
the
come
whole
back
point
where?
of closing down the block.
Yeah, but it's on the block.
Because there's a numerous amount of people. We have a lot of problems with the block. There's a lot of gang problems, so that's why there's a lot of us there. After a certain time, once you leave the block, you cannot come back. And then after around 2:30, or then that's when we leave and people can go back to Crazy John's or whatever other stores are opened all night.
Most of the time, we're not out.
Just again, how many patrons do you remember seeing when you went in?
I remember at least seeing more than one, but it was just a few.
But there were containers on the bar.
Correct, like glasses.
And someone told you that they contained alcohol.
Correct.
Were they like, was it like, were they half full or
Half full. I mean, it wasn't like it was full.
Can I ask a question?
And who did you see consuming the alcohol?
Stop.
We've already went through that.
Okay.
Been through that.
and you went in clear at 2 o'clock or
It,
after
it was
2
it was after 2, like I said, because at that point there was people can't hang out in front of the doors. That's the whole point of, like I said,
Clear the block.
Right, and then so the bouncer, I don't know if that's the same one that is in this officer's case, but he was giving the sergeant who, I know you asked about why am I the only one that wrote a report. Well, the sergeant that was there that night is the one that signed my report. He was giving, the bouncer was giving the sergeant some lips. That's what gave us attention to go in, and that's when we noticed.
So the sergeant noticed activity in the bar because of the bouncer
Correct.
and went in.
So if there wasn't people crowding in front of, a few people crowding in front of the door, we would have never known to go in there. And
Do you go into all establishments?
if there's a problem, we go in. Usually, most people are out by then.
And at 2 o'clock, the doors are usually locked and
Correct.
closed?
And then shortly after, that's when the workers come out. And I don't close down the block every Friday and Saturday night just because of days off, but there's people that are there every weekend and know who the workers are and who the bouncers are, and there's a familiar face, so they would know who's a worker and who's just a patron.
Let me just follow up on that. I think it's very interesting. When you go in there, is there more than one place when you, a common entranceway into there? Is there another club right there?
Next to the Diamond Lounge,
Diamond and Shea Joey, are they close to each other?
they're all the bars are next to each other.
How do you get to the Diamond? You go straight in or you go down the steps?
Correct.
Which way? Go down the steps?
You go straight down the steps.
And to the right, is there Shea Joey right there?
I don't recall. I don't know which bars. are
Isn't it
next
true that they're right there? Both of them are together in the same
When
entrance?
you-
Okay.
He was working at the Diamond Lounge.
But we don't know who he is. If there are two places right there, the common doorway, how do you know he was the Diamond and not the
Because
Shea
he was
Joey?
standing in the doorway to the Diamond Lounge. There's only one doorway into the Diamond Lounge.
But he wasn't drinking. Whoever he is.
He is the bouncer.
Yeah. Security people, we call them generally. Okay.
I know that we've made a point to make sure that liquor is off all bars at the time it's supposed to close. We have I forget the license type that closes at 12 o'clock, or 1 o'clock. And we've been fairly, not harsh, but enforcing the rules. And if you have liquor on top of a bar after 2 o'clock, you're in violation of the rules, period. Okay? So I would say the underage doesn't have enough proof to go with that, in my opinion.
I agree that we don't have enough for the last 2 violations dealing with from September 5th. I agree, I think with the first 2, October 3rd, based on the officer's testimony, there was at least one patron there after closing time, and she observed open alcohol containers on the bar. I think we have enough for that.
Well, it's known that the block is going to be monitored very closely by the police department, you know. I would say that's a violation.
So that's 2 for the first 2, none for the second 2. Right?
Could I just, when you're talking about Rule 9 and 405 together, 2 separate violations, or you're talking about a merger?
I would say merging the 2 in one violation. To me, it's the same. They're the same.
They're the same.
Yeah, we just make sure that we charge under both codes because of the fact that you have an adult entertainment license and a liquor license, so that you want to make sure that you do charge the adult entertainment license to keep them simultaneous. That's the reason why we charge both.
Okay. So they're merged.
You can merge.
Okay. So now, priors.
None. This was transferred in 2010.
In 2010?
Yes. So none since 2010.
No violations. All the records are up to date, stat and everything.
Yeah, sorry, 2009, excuse me, not 2010. And as of January 23rd, 2009, there was a compliance for the conference.
I argue this is a de minimis. I don't know. Remember Judge Robinson? You would argue these were de minimis. 'Cause
De minimis non curat lex. The court will not be brought with trifles.
They always
But this
say-
is not a trifle, Mr.
It's like it's an
Kaminsky.
Abu Trekwe Hawk situation.
Yeah, but it's
for
not a de minimis.
causation.
This is their first violation.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm just.
I understand, but I
And
can
it's a
speak
shame
Latin
that-
too.
And I just not to
Well, we
add
have
to you,
rules
they
on the
make
first
decisions
violation,
one way
don't
or the other.
Huh?
Mr.
have rules on the
Bungers in
first
Jamaica, and he didn't have
500.
cases here and wasn't top 10 yesterday, and I rounded up what I could round up for today.
I understand. You always do a good job, Mr. Kadensky. But get your hand off my fan.
I didn't know what that was. I
Don't
thought it was a
worry about
fan
it.
doll, and that was banned.
No. It's
Just in New Jersey, in New York.
Just in New Jersey. All right. What are we doing with the fine?
First $500 plus cost. And I realize why the officers brought the charges, because they didn't know.
No suspension.
No
$500
suspension.
fine. And the other 2 are dropped.
So, what, a week to, no, I mean, when you pay it, a week?
I'll do 30 days. Let's
30
keep it
days? Okay,
consistent,
that's more.
okay?
There you go.
All right, thank you very much.
I will,
thank
give
you.
me a second.
Thank you very much.
No.
No.
You know what the deal is? I mean, the deal is we need to have the people.
We need to have as much evidence as we can.
I understand it, but I mean, I can only work with
I know.
We're not
We're not complaining to you.
We're just saying the reason
Oh,
that
yes,
it
I was
happened the way it
sorry.
happened is because we didn't have what we needed.
It's a tough job. That's a
You know,
tough
I'm
job.
not saying that you did anything wrong.
No, you did a great job.
Oh, no,
Thank
you don't have to worry about that. Right? This is not a court of law.
You're perfect, thanks. No, you did a great job.
You did a great job.
I understand. I get it. I get it. I get it.
I hear what you're saying.
Okay.
The only way,
You
you
too,
could-
happy
the only way you could
Thanksgiving.
really do it is go in and see the agreements they have with the girls.
Thank you, officer.
They have to sign some agreement to work there. You know, but we didn't do that.
You made him a lieutenant.
Be a good
That's what I
lieutenant.
was trying to tell you, that she was lying.
That's okay.
That's why I tried to get the 5 minutes.
Wait, guys, just 1 second. Let me get you this thing.
I knew it right away.
Him? You know.
We often tempted to bring guns in, but we can't get guns
After a
into the
while, you
building.
get used to him.
You just,
Most times, you just let it go
Yes.
in this ear and out this ear.
You got this?
And
I
then
won't
you-
say ignore, but
Then you follow the law as best you can.
Yeah, let me tell you, if I were to get it with the voice, what I gotta do?
Oh, yeah, I'll take it.
You up there? Yeah, buddy. I know where you are. I know where you are. You don't know.
Okay. December 19th.
My name's Muffin. I know nothing.
All right.
Always a pleasure, Mel. Always a pleasure.
always a pleasure.
Michael, give me a call.
We don't need to know about Lulu.
That was
Mrs. Jones?
No.
that's why you can see the difference.
Listen,
Well,
I
that's
mean,
why you got
it's a good song, you know it.
So this was the charges for the phone. I
know it. Don't get him singing, please. Don't have him sing.
That's why it's.
He didn't bring his pony in today, though.
No, he didn't bring his pony.
Or his dog. Or his dog.
Hydro Pony is a real song.
You were gonna,
That's the real deal.
you were gonna sing.
Toussaint just died. Guy wrote that.
Fan.
No, not, you were gonna sing, Mama's Got a Squeeze Box. That's what. Yeah, I brought my own fan.
I saw
I
that.
wonder what that noise was.
That was my fan.
See, Mr. Chairman, you don't have any on this side.
I don't need any on that side because I don't want you people to get comfortable.
He wants you to. He wants you
I
to sweat
thought
now.
that when you
gamble
were
on
here for the
FanDuel?
comments, we would be here a long time and I would get overheated. And so I brought a fan in.
Wait until next time.
This was a
I
short
brought a
session.
fan
Only
in.
2 things.
So that's why. And your father even got tired of listening to it.
entertaining
too,
I
so-
thought he was a licensee at first. I was like,